And I said, well, in my animated episode, I introduced his predecessor, Robert April. And JJ said, yeah, he's on in the film.
Oh, no.
And we had a laugh.
Captain's Pod, stardate 4071422.7. That's what we're going with today, people.
Wow.
For all of you who think that my stardate system is made up, it is not.
It is just simply getting longer and more sing-songy.
Yeah, that's amazing. Deneé is rubbing off on me. If you heard the outtakes, there's a lot of Deneé. Sorry, you wouldn't have heard the outtakes yet, because that happens at the end of the show, people. But listen to the outtakes. There'll be tons of Deneé singing. How are you doing, Ambassador?
I'm great. I'm excited because today I have a surprise for you.
Continue.
Okay. I'm going to beam somebody aboard.
Are you going to beam them to 10 forward? Do we have to go there, or are you going to beam them in front of me?
I haven't decided yet.
Okay.
I figure I probably should talk to somebody who understands beaming a little bit more than I do.
Just make sure that they get beamed in with clothes. That's the crucial thing. They have to have their clothes beamed in with them.
Okay. Yeah, I can do that. Sure. You know what? Just
I'll meet you in 10 forward for whatever the surprise might be.
Okay, I'll tell you about it on the way so that you're not super shocked.
Okay, amazing.
Because it's Elmo, but...
Oh, well, you don't have to worry then, because Elmo doesn't have clothes.
That's why I got confused. Like, does he come furless? I don't know.
Oh my goodness, everybody welcome Elmo from Sesame Street. Incredible. Unfortunately, it isn't Elmo, but we do indeed have a very special guest. So let's head over to 10 forward and join a piece of Trek history, Fred Bronson. So first of all, unless the internet has completely misled me, you are a well-travelled, well-written journalist, music enthusiast, and most importantly, top-of-the-list Star Trek writer as well. That's got to be right at the very, very top.
In all modesty, yeah, that's all true.
With as much humility as I can muster, yes, that's me.
I mean, the most important question that I have, very, very top of the list is...
Yes.
Don't worry about Paul McCartney, Adam Lambert, anyone like that. What was it like to interview Ace of Base? Top of my list.
Well, it is by far, and I have done some very long interviews, but Ace of Base holds the record for
oh, amazing.
I've ever done with Ulf, 12 hours.
Oh,
yes.
What did you talk about for 12 hours?
I was just telling Ian that I get really chatty, and sometimes I'll realize that we booked an hour interview and I joked around that days would go by, but it sometimes you just meet people and you click. Was that what happened?
We have met in person many times, but this was over the phone, which was a very expensive phone. It was more than one because we took a lunch break and a dinner break.
That's incredible.
I was writing liner notes for the Ace of Base box set, which didn't come out till 5 years later, by the way. It's a long time.
Well, yeah, if every interview took 12 hours, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, exactly. So I think I got every possible fact about Ace of Base. I have done, like 5 hours with Mary Wilson from the Supremes. And then I'll just tell you one more. In 2008, for Sirius XM, I was interviewing Bjorn and Benny for the ABBA channel that ran for 3 weeks. They were on their way to the studio, and the Sirius people said, they're going to sit for about 30 minutes, so get what you can. We did a 3-hour interview.
Wow.
And
I'm sure they were thrilled.
Well, so the next day I had to see Benny again, and I said, listen, I know that was a really long interview. I'm sorry. He said, no, we loved it. We would have left if we...
Yeah. So we're done now. See you later.
We're okay with it, yeah.
If we get to the 8-hour mark, please cut me off and stop, because I only have so much of a hard drive. I can't fit 12 hours on it.
Okay. Well,
I'll do that.
5 or 6 hours,
I'll do that.
I'm sure, tops.
We'll leave it to around there. Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay.
Amazing.
I'll make it really awkward and just put up an end screen.
Just start playing the
with
music.
A roll credits.
When they've done the awards acceptance speech for too long. Yeah, that's it. No, I'm not finished yet.
Ian can talk about Star Trek ceaselessly.
Okay,
so
I have nothing to do until Friday, so
Okay, perfect.
Brilliant.
Perfect.
Deneé, I know you have childcare stuff to do. You need to stop.
I'll work
all
on
of
it.
that. Yeah,
I'll work on it.
That's
Yeah.
fine. Amazing. Well, I thought what inspired this, to be honest, was the kind of unexpected introduction of your captain of the Enterprise being introduced into Strange New Worlds. So
Yeah.
I'm dying to dive straight into that and just
Sure.
how awesome was that news? How incredible was that surprise?
I was very patient. I waited 48 years for
to say the least. We've all waited that amount of time for this series to launch from the cage. It's like the longest pilot to series wait in the history.
Record. I think about that. So Robert April, we almost had a live action there. We almost had live action Robert April a couple of times, but we didn't obviously until now, or we would know that. When J.J. Abrams was making his first movie in 2009, I happened to be at Paramount doing an interview for a box set about being an extra in the first movie, along with a few other people,
perfect.
David Gerald and Joe Trimble and Chris Duan. And after we did the interview, the producer said, we want to walk you over to stage 18, which is where you did this 30 years ago. Well, stage 18 was in use for the first JJ Star Trek movie. And Chris had already filmed a scene for it. So now we're standing over in front of stage 18, and a golf cart comes along, and Chris says, oh, hi, JJ.
As they do.
And JJ says, hey, Chris. And he comes over to talk to Chris, and Chris introduces me as a writer of an animated episode and a couple of TNG. And JJ says, have you seen the new set? And I said, it's kind of high security. No.
Funnily enough, they're not letting just anyone in.
No, yeah, they're not going to let us in. So he said, well, would you like to? I said, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, wow.
So a second later, I'm getting a wristband and signing an NDA, and I'm escorted in, and JJ's standing behind me. And we're there for about 20 minutes, and I think I'm a huge fan of Lost, and I've got to go talk.
Of course.
This is probably my only chance in my lifetime. Go have a word with JJ. So I went over and I said, so I understand that you've got Captain Pike as one of the characters in the film. He said, yes, we do. And I said, well, in my animated episode, I introduced his predecessor, Robert April, and JJ said, yeah, he's on in the film.
Oh, no.
And we had a laugh.
Just hint, just in case you were tempted.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't think he was, but it was still, I had a moment with JJ.
That's amazing.
Now it's 2013, and he's making his second movie. And I'm reading online because it was shrouded in secrecy. Like, is it Khan? Is it not Khan? Nobody really knew early on. And in February, I'm reading a report from a journalist who went to the very first press conference at JJ's office. And he writes, based on what I heard and saw today at JJ Abrams' office, I think the main character in the new Star Trek movie is Robert April from the animated series.
Oh, that kind of makes sense.
And I'm thinking, what?
So no one told me.
I track him down. I give him a phone call. And I said, hi, I created Robert. What do you mean you saw something or heard? He said, well, nobody said anything, but I saw a storyboard on a desk, and it was all about Robert April.
Oh, wow.
It turns out he saw a storyboard for the prequel comic book.
Of course.
But he wasn't.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
You must have been absolutely giddy for a little while. Just like, what's going on? What are they doing?
I didn't know for sure until I saw the movie. But
that's amazing.
So I think I was extremely patient. 48 years.
I think that's fantastically patient. And I think they picked an absolutely incredible person to play him as well.
Yeah, he was great. I tweeted him. I don't know him, but I sent him a tweet saying, how great it is. Thank you for bringing the character to life. And got a lovely, tweet back from him. And as you probably know, there were some haters out there who
inevitably.
So I wanted to show support because he did do a great job, and I hope we see him again.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it was nice to see him pop up in a second episode as well. It wasn't just like a cameo at the beginning. It was
right.
Yeah, and I think it was smart to have him play the character that's kind of giving Pike a kick back into the captain's chair as well. It was super powerful, not just an aside on a computer screen somewhere.
I was very happy.
Really cool.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So back to like the genesis of Robert April then. Yeah. So how did you find yourself writing an animated episode of Star Trek and then just think, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to reinvent who's in charge of the Enterprise. Like that's pretty bold.
Well, you kind of nailed it. So I was the publicist, the NBC publicist for the animated series. I went to work at NBC in 1971, and my boss knew I was a huge Star Trek fan and science fiction. So every science fiction project that came along during my
do it.
Yeah, I didn't even have to raise my hand. It was like, it's yours. So I was the publicist on Buck Rogers, and the year that Bionic Woman was on NBC, Man from Atlantis, and on and on. So Star Trek, it was just a natural fit for me to be By the way, I marched on NBC in 1968. B. Joe Trimble's organized march to protest the possible cancellation. And
wow, that's huge.
Yeah, I was a kid. The executive who came out to greet us is the man who hired me 3 years later.
That's incredible.
Pure coincidence. It wasn't like I stayed in touch with him because
it was like, hey, I remember this kid.
But so he knew that. So anyway, here I am, the public.
That's amazing.
So I'm working hand in hand with Filmation, and I did submit some ideas in season 1 to Dorothy Fontana, and they were all rejected. So now comes season 2, 6 episodes, and I wanted to write for the original, but I was a little too young. And when it was canceled, I thought, well, that's it. No more Star Trek ever, and I'm out of luck. And now the animated. So I'm thinking, it's my last and only chance to write.
Star Trek will be dead after this. We won't see anything more ever again.
Yeah, exactly.
We will not be talking about this in 2022.
Well, I have a funny story about that. I'll tell you too. So there's 6 episodes only for season 2. And since I'm the publicist, I kind of know what's going on. And we got to a point where they were looking for 2 more scripts. They had 4 and they needed 2 more. So I submitted one, something called War Game. And it was, in the quick storyline is that they beam down to a planet where World War II is being Earth's World War II is being recreated, and it's August 6, 1945, and they beam down to Hiroshima.
Oh my goodness.
So Filmation liked it, but NBC said, we're not going to do a World War II story on Saturday morning television. Even though Star Trek, as we know, the animated was for adults, but it was also for kids. It had to appeal to both. So I was disappointed, and now they bought another script meanwhile. So there's
there's one left.
One.
Oh no.
So I had to act fast. Now, my favorite author when I was growing up, who nobody knew at the time, but now everybody knows who he is or was, since he's not with us anymore, Philip K. Dick. I was just a fan. And
he's incredible.
Absolutely. And I felt, like nobody else knew who he was at the time. Sort of like when Kate Bush first came out. Now everybody knows who he is. Not back then. So he had a novel called Counterclock World, where time ran backwards.
Of course.
And that amazing. Was my inspiration. I call it an homage, not plagiarism, but
that's fair.
Of
that's
course.
fair.
Yeah. Of course.
So that's where I came up with the idea if they go into a universe where time runs backward. And I think, well, if they're going to become kids, I need an adult an older adult who could become, even though he's going to become younger, he's still an adult and can get them back safely.
Like their guide.
Yeah.
And then I think, all right, what if there was, we know Pike is Kirk's predecessor, but did Pike have a predecessor? So I went back and watched the Menagerie again. They never said he was the first captain of the Enterprise.
No. And any excuse to watch the Menagerie as well.
Exactly. And so I thought, okay, there was an earlier captain, and I'm going to invent him. And then I needed a name. Well, at the time, there was one book about Star Trek called The Making of Star Trek. And in that book was a list of the names that Gene was considering. I think there were 9 names on the list. Obviously, one was Christopher Pike and one was James T. Kirk. Well, one of the other names was Robert April. Now, I know now, but did not know then, he had already used the name in Have Gun Will Travel for a guest character. I didn't know that. And he also, was strongly considering that as the name for the captain in the first pilot, but obviously did not use it. And I thought, well, if I'm going to name him, I might as well pick a name he likes.
What an amazing... Now, that's an homage. That's great. That's an awesome way to
I wanted to do that. So I picked Robert. Of the names that had not been used yet, I liked Robert April the best. And
that's perfect.
And then Sarah just came out of, I don't know, no particular inspiration. Names, when you're writing, names pop into your head, and Sarah popped into my head.
That's amazing. There's a reason for all of them.
Something you wouldn't know about us is that both Ian and I play games where we create characters too. I create characters on a role-playing world. Ian does the same. And so we're very familiar with creating, really thought through backstories and all that stuff. So I'm just over here imagining how mind-bending it would be to create something and then have another organization pick it up and bring it to life in this whole new way, because it comes from your imagination, but we're obviously inspired by all of the things that happen in our own lives. Like Ian and I regularly come up with little Star Trek isms and examples and jump into new stories. And what if this happened? And what if that happened? And what a fun thing to actually be able to put it on paper and have people read it and kind of go, yeah, this actually works in this universe. And then just the collaboration of the beauty of the storytelling in the Star Trek universe. I'm really excited to get back involved in Star Trek. He's been in it forever.
Right.
He jokes around that his mom played like the warp core while he was in the womb.
In the womb, just like to soothe me. But I'm absolutely certain it happened. The naming thing is fascinating because, like, I always wonder, like, how are the names iconic because the series has been around for so long, or does the weight of the name, like, would it not work as well if you didn't have powerful names like Kirk, McCoy, Spock, Riker, Picard, and
right?
Do you
get lucky, or is it like deliberately like syllabolic?
Yes, and
punchy.
Something interesting about a couple of those names. So Gene's middle name is Wesley, and although it was going to be Leslie Crusher originally, when they decided to give her a son instead of a daughter, that's where Wesley came from. And Gene's assistant, I'm sure you know, Susan Sackett, who I helped get the job with him in the first place back in 1974. Her middle name is Deanna.
Oh, perfect. Wow.
Troy kid.
I didn't know that. That's cool.
That's amazing. That's so cool. It's nice to draw from something.
And talking about naming things, there's something I named. So my two contributions to canon are Robert April and Umax.
You invented Umax?
When I wrote Menage a Troy with Susan, the whole thing about massaging his ear absent-mindedly, and then it turns out to be one of the
that is the first time it happens.
That was it.
Oh, wow.
Menage. And the name, again, literally just popped into my head. I don't know where it came from. Umax.
That's so funny. No, I was about to say you're absolutely right. You're right. Yeah, that is the first time that it appeared, and it got picked up a lot in Deep Space Nine. Obviously,
exactly. It got used.
It's just like it's as familiar with the Ferengi as being greedy is. That's incredible.
That's the fun part. Is like as people who kind of like have the creative, inventive mind to have people like latch onto something and then just run with it and enjoy it. As a content creator, that's got to feel really
and
good.
Have another life after
you,
like. Really, seriously, 48 years later, Robert April's still a part of this, and that is amazing.
That's powerful.
You mentioned having a story for 2022. Is that part of it, to still be talking about it?
It involves a lunch that I had. So because Susan was a friend, once she started working for Gene, I would go over there on a regular basis, and the three of us would have lunch. Sometimes on the lot, sometimes we'd go out. Gene would never let us pay, except we always took him out on his birthday. That was the one time.
Oh, amazing.
Well, one of those lunches, it was 1990, and it was in the commissary at Paramount. somehow the conversation turned to legacy. And I said, well, you know, they'll still be writing stories about Kirk and Spock in the 21st century. And Gene, in his way, said, yeah, and they'll do it better than I did it.
Oh, that's amazing.
And, you know, once we got to JJ's first movie and they're writing stories about Kirk and Spock in the 21st century, I thought, oh my God, I don't know if I said it. Did I believe it? I don't know. But it came to pass.
It's amazing. It's got to feel so good too, because technology's changed so much. Like one of the things we're talking about a lot on Captain's Pod for Strange New Worlds, for example, is just like all the costuming, and the camera's able to pick up all this detail, and there's just this different way of telling the story that is so different than, you know, the original series or anything. We can, like Ian was just explaining that the color patterns of the costuming was because TVs got their first
well, the original
ability?
series was one of the first shows that was in color. So it was like, hey, yeah, let's make the uniforms as colorful as possible.
Exactly.
Why not? Let's take advantage of it.
Yeah, that is the truth.
And now we're getting these like 3D printed emblems and just this super high detailed sort of world building stuff that I am just like, I want the clothes of Strange New Worlds on my body every day. Those shoes.
Yeah.
I'm like, let's go. You know, it's such a fun kind of world to get so detailed.
Absolutely.
And so the stories are being retold, but then also there's these new kind of filters of elements that couldn't be done, you know, early on. There was no 3D printing. There was the same kind of things. So I can see why he would say that. But did he, because I don't know a lot about Gene and everything, because I'm the new nerd to Star Trek. Is that how you would say it?
The relapsed fan
I'm the
that's coming back to the fold.
Fair enough.
I grew up on TNG.
Right.
So my race home every day from school was to sit in front of the TV and watch TNG. So the original series is something that was new to me, and so my first version of Spock is in Strange New Worlds, actually. So it's it's a different kind of storytelling too. To your point, we're telling these stories again, and I'm just curious, like, are you watching Strange New Worlds and all of these and just super loving it? Are you loving it so much?
I am absolutely loving it. Well, first of all, I really have enjoyed every Star Trek. There's not one that I don't care for. I love them all.
Yeah.
Maybe some more than others, but
of course,
I love them all. Well, Strange New Worlds. I mean, how much better can it be? Yeah.
It's so good.
Oh man, it's hard to not be like over the top about it. But I was talking to my dad, and I said, I know I say this a lot, but this is the best Star Trek that I've ever seen. It's so good.
Absolutely,
it's so fun.
And we're only getting 10 episodes. I mean, it's not enough. We got to get a longer season.
Give me 30. Like, just give me a full season.
13.
These writers don't need to sleep. Just keep them working. Like, we need more stories.
You know, they used to do 26 episodes a year. Well, we can do 13. Come on.
Come on. Give us something more.
And we need a little more time. That's all. Yeah, I love it.
It's got to feel so incredible. Like, I know that, you know, you've got characters that you've written, but having been around all of the people who are so invested in this world, to know like that these stories continue on and we get to see them in these new iterations. I am loving it. I am a Spock fan.
Yeah.
He's my favorite now.
The original series, absolutely. So
really,
I mean, I liked everybody, but he was probably maybe the one I identified with the most.
I think that is so true of so many Star Trek fans. This is the guy that is misunderstood and often the butt of the joke, even though he has the most sensible thing to say. It's really easy to relate to that.
Yeah.
When you're writing a character, do you usually try to think of like a standout trait that will at least sort of appear a little bit and give them some texture? Is that something that you consider when you're writing something?
That's a good question, but I don't think consciously I do. I think it's more, for me anyway, more organic, that, you know, they take on a life of their own, and you just are, it's like what songwriters say. They say, I don't know where the lyrics come from. I'm a channel. They come into me and they come out of me. So I don't really know where the inspiration and it all comes from. I do plot a lot out in my head before I ever touch the keyboard. But once you're on the keyboard typing, something magically organic happens. And sometimes, even though you plotted out a story, for, beginning, middle, end, and every beat in between, sometimes when those fingers are going over the keyboard, something else happens or something else
It just goes out the window.
Yeah, I can't explain it really how that happened. I'd love to know what's really going on with that.
What the secret sauce is.
Yeah.
It almost feels like cheating because our main job is writing silly jokes on YouTube. And sometimes, like, where those jokes and those points come from, it's like, I didn't consciously intend to do that. It just came out of me, and it feels like the universe is trying to make a point through you. And you're just the vessel to get it out there.
I mean, it is amazing how many songwriters say that they're all having that same experience of it just flows into me.
That's incredible.
I've experienced that myself firsthand with some songs that I've written. It's a trip. It's a trip.
Yeah.
But it's fun when you feel that connection to something. I don't know, it feels bigger than yourself, and you're just kind of channeling, whether it's a conversation with a friend or you're creating something. But there is something about creation, and there's a vibrancy to it, especially when you're with people. Did you write like solo kind of by yourself, or did you ever do like group work where everyone's kind of minds in together and just co-creating? Is that something that would happen as well?
I would say not so much group work. Maybe in a class I've done that, where I had a script writing class in college, and they'd put us into small groups and we'd come up with it. So, but that was maybe 0.1% of my writing. The Star Trek episodes I wrote with Susan. Menage, not the anime, that was by myself, but Menage a Troy and the game we wrote together. So I have collaborated, but everything else has been on my own.
Wow.
Well,
that's amazing.
I'm saying that, but there were television shows where I did write with other people, but we didn't. Variety. I wrote a lot of variety. I worked at Dick Clark Productions for many years, writing the American Music Awards and the New Year's Rockin' Eve show. And so I wasn't the only writer. Well, kind of on the American Music Awards for a long time I was, but not always. New Year's Eve, though. But we would take different parts of the show. So it wasn't like, all right, let's sit down and write something for Ryan or Dick. It was, you write this, and so I felt like I was writing by myself, even though the show would have 3 or 4 writers in the credits.
That's interesting. In my imagination, it's like the writers get together in this room, and it's like all just kind of hands down. There's pencils flying, and there's erasers and conversation.
I think that is what happens today. I mean, because when I wrote for TNG, you could go in and pitch, but now everything's staff written, and so there are writing rooms, and they do that exactly what you just said. And there are many shows, I don't know about Star Trek, but there are many shows where, the writing credit will be one person, but it was created in the writer's room with a lot of people contributing. So I think you're more right on them than I am at the moment, the way things happen now.
I would just love to be a fly on the wall for that chaos of and all of the ideas that we never get to see as well. Right. The absolute bonkers pitches that are just like, no, we can't do that. That's too ridiculous.
Oh, I've made many of those pitches.
Oh, I want to hear some of those.
Okay. Well,
what's one of the most ridiculous?
Oh, ridiculous! I have to think about that. Well, actually, I thought Menage a Troy was pretty ridiculous when we.
You did write 2 absolutely incredibly bonkers episodes of Star Trek.
Well,
they're great.
Me and Deneé watched them together because they were. I've seen them 1,000 times, but it would have been ages since Deneé had seen them, so we watched them back to back. So it made for a fantastic double bill.
It was so fun,
craziness.
What was wild as well is when the game came on, I was like, I remember this one. Like, I actually remember sitting in front of my television and watching that one. It was pretty cool.
I love that.
Yeah.
So the first season of TNG, actually, let me go back a little bit before that. Because I knew Susan, and Susan was sitting in all the very first meetings where they were creating characters way before anybody was cast. I was getting all the information. Well, the captain's going to be Picard, and the doctor is Dr. Crusher, and she has a daughter named Wesley, as we know that changed. So I'm starting to think up ideas because, my previous thought that there no more Star Trek ever, I was wrong. I want to write for TNG. And so I had quite a few ideas before the show was even cast. And at this point, I was in the Writers Guild thanks to other work. And if you're in the Writers Guild, you could go in and pitch. If you weren't, you could still send a story in like Ron Moore did with the bonding. And if, they might pick 1 out of 10,000, like the bonding, to produce and create someone who's going to be part of Star Trek for a very long time. And
that's just incredible. Like, we don't really have the Klingons as we know them if that didn't happen.
Exactly. Thanks to Ron. Yes. So season 1, I was able to go in and pitch. I mean, I think Gene said, please, let Fred come in and pitch.
Yeah.
And so I pitched to Bob Lewin, who was one of the producers on season 1. And he liked one of my ideas, which I'll tell you. And then I'll tell you why it didn't get made. I called it The Mnemonic Enemy. And it opens with Dr. Crusher in the captain's chair and Deanna Troi on the bridge, but no men.
Oh, and that's awesome.
In the teaser, we start to realize there are no men on the ship, period. And they've all been stolen for breeding stock, and the women's memories have been wiped.
Oh, that's amazing.
They're not aware that there were ever men on the ship. And it goes on.
Oh, wow.
And I said, well, I like that.
I'm down for this. I like it.
Right? That would have been good.
That's fun.
The reason it didn't get made, so Bob said, well, I like the idea. We are thinking about another story that's not the same story, but it does involve men and women being separate, and it's a gender, story. He said, we can't do both. I'm going to fight for yours. Well, he lost.
Oh,
no. Angel One got made. That was the other story. So
what was the other one? Sorry.
Oh, Angel One.
Angel One.
Yeah,
oh, yeah.
the matriarchy planet. So,
however, if that didn't get made, we never would have had the Riker V cut.
Exactly. So we had to have that.
Tunic. Yeah. We had to have that.
Yeah.
Well, now we just know that the key back then was the tunic.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And if we ever see this happen on Strange New Worlds, where it's just Ortegas, number 1, on the bridge and everyone else is gone, we know where it's come from.
Exactly.
Man, I would have loved to have seen that because
that's incredible.
Those were my my heroines. I loved watching them.
Yeah, I really wanted to see it too. So no sale, season 1. Now season 2 comes along, and Susan and I decided to team up because she had also submitted on her own and didn't sell. And Gene said, all right, because at this point he was in charge, but he wasn't the showrunner. Maurice Hurley was the showrunner the year before Michael Piller came in. And Gene said, look, this time pitch to me. And if I like it, I'll let you know. So we came up with another idea. It's going to sound cliche now, but I promise you when we came up with it, it had never been done. So you're going to have to take my word for it.
I already believe you. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Well, we've actually seen things like it since. So we called it Past Tense. A Starfleet historian from the future comes back to observe the Enterprise and accidentally causes the death of Picard.
Oh.
So they have to reset, with a time loop and all of that.
Oh, that would have been incredible.
So Gene liked it, and he bought it. He bought the story from us, which is, you get paid a certain amount for a story. If they have you write the script, then you get paid the full amount of what a script gets, what you get paid for a script. Well, nobody else liked it. And Rick Berman especially did not want to do time travel then. Yeah. And Hurley didn't like it. So nothing happened.
Oh, no.
Then season 3, Hurley is gone and Michael Piller's in. And we thought, we got a chance for this one.
Let's do it.
Michael didn't like it either. At least, at least he didn't want to do it.
No.
So now Susan and I said, all right, well, let's come up with other ideas.
Yeah.
And we literally came up with 12 ideas.
Oh, wow.
And nowadays, they will not let you come in with 12 ideas. Anybody, they tell you 3 or 4, but tops. Not one, because the meeting could be over in 30 seconds if they don't like your
Right.
pitch.
But yeah, we're not doing that, or we already have something similar.
Yes. Well, so that's exactly with the first 11 ideas we pitched. We either heard we're already doing that, or we'll never do that.
Oh no!
One of the things they said we'll never do that was a Western in the holodeck.
But they did that.
They did it.
I watched that episode.
They did, but it was later. It was a couple years later.
Oh no!
With Worf and his son, it was so cool.
Yeah,
because that was like season 6.
That was one of our ideas.
Yeah.
We did.
Man!
When they did it, we felt redeemed, but we still. Anyway.
But also a little bit robbed.
Yeah. So, literally, our 12th idea was the Ransom of Mrs. Troy, based on the O. Henry short story, The Ransom of Red Chief, and the pitch was aliens kidnap Mrs. Troy, and they can't wait to give her back. So obviously,
it was so fun.
It got refined from, it got developed from there.
Mm-hmm.
So that, as you know, that one we sold. But there were a couple years later, we pitched more, and one of the ideas was in the teaser ends with the Enterprise exploding, and then the story goes backward from there. And Michael,
wait,
yeah, you saw it later in Voyager. Michael Piller said, "Do you mean like the musical Merrily We Roll Along, which is a Sondheim musical that starts at the end and goes backward? Every scene is back in time." And I said, "Well, exactly like that. That was our inspiration for this."
Oh, so he pegged it too quick.
Yeah, but Michael said, "Well, I love Merrily We Roll Along, but we're not going to do this in Star Trek." Of course, years later in Voyager, they did that exactly,
Yeah, because they revisit different... I thought you were going to say that headed into Cause and Effect, where the ship explodes and then there's the repeat. But yeah, in Voyager, it was almost a really clever clip show where they got to relive bits of Voyager's past depending on what part of the ship they were in.
Oh, that was good too. I'm thinking of the one where we go back to Kess's like birth.
Oh, yes. No, they start at the end of her life and then go all the way backwards.
Yes.
And
so they did.
I can see why they got confused with.
Yeah. Oh no, the concept has been toyed with ever since.
Well, that's one of the best episodes of Voyager. Like that is a haunting episode because like you just have no control. The further back you go, the less people understand what the hell you're talking about.
Exactly, and they did a Seinfeld episode like that too, where they were going to a wedding in India, but it starts at the end. And the very last scene is Kramer moving into the apartment next door. I mean, it really goes back.
Wow. It's such a clever story device.
Yeah, well, we wanted to do it, and we didn't. So you never know.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Just how many stories like that are there out there of stories that just never made it?
Sure.
That's exactly what I was thinking about. And how encouraging it is, too, because I think a lot of times we look at the successes and forget that there's a lot of no's and there's a lot of hurdles, mental or whatever, just to get through. Like, it's not that it's a bad idea. It's that the timing isn't right or this person just didn't understand it the right way. And so to keep at it and keep going back because you love doing something and not to be discouraged it takes a lot of endurance.
I think anybody who's creative, whether you're a songwriter or a TV writer or a TV producer, you have to be able to hear the no and keep going. I mean, look, Star Wars was turned down by many studios. The Beatles were turned down by many labels. If you hear the no and you stop, you've given up.
Because you just don't know. You don't know where that no is coming from.
Exactly.
Sometimes.
And if you'll eventually get a yes.
And they make a bonkers episode with the Ferengi and...
Oh, man. Yeah. I hadn't remembered meeting Deanna's mom until we watched that together, Ian. Like, I hadn't... That was not one of the episodes that I really, like, remembered too much. But then, of course, it was a while ago. And in my mind. But when I saw her, I was like, oh, tell me more about this person. And then we were talking about the actor who played
Angel.
And she was fascinating to watch. Like, what a fascinating person to bring to life that character
very
in that episode.
Yeah. Big, bold, brassy, says what she thinks, doesn't care if
it was
you don't
great.
like it.
I was like, man, no filter. Let's go. I love it. I'm encouraged by no filters.
when we pitched it, they'd already done one story with her. And so when we went in and we pitched it, at first Michael said, well, I like it. I'm not sure. And I don't know where this came from, but I said, well, we all know there's going to be a Mrs. Troy story this season since, Major was Gene Troy.
It's what you do, yeah.
And I said, and I think we have the best one. I don't know why I said that.
Amazing.
I'm not even sure I believed it, but I went for it. And Michael said, well, you kind of do. So, yeah, we're going to go forward.
That's awesome. Incredible. That's so great.
Even if you have false confidence in yourself, you've got it. It's there somewhere.
Great when it pays off. That's amazing. How much fun is it to put words in Lwaxana Troy's mouth and just to create that flamboyant way she talks?
Almost as much fun as putting words in Patrick Stewart's mouth.
Oh, the song, the poem.
Stuff.
It's so great.
Oh, that final scene is so good.
It's absolutely genius.
And being on set when he did it.
You were
that
there?
must have been magical.
So writers are not, especially people who are not staff, are not invited to the set. And I think it's because they're afraid you're going to go, that's not what I meant.
Yes. You didn't say it right.
Yeah.
Could you another take on that,
Can
please?
we do another take? Yeah.
Obviously we wouldn't have. But anyway, we're not welcome.
Right.
But you have to remember Susan was Gene's assistant. And so
a little bit of extra sway.
Yeah, she went to Gene and said, it's our first episode. We'd really like to be on the set. And he said, go ahead.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yay.
That's so great.
So you were there?
All 7 days.
Oh, wow.
We were on the set. In fact, I have a great photo of Susan and me with Mr. Hom and the Ferengi captain.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so great.
So we were there it was fun. I mean, I'm not saying we were there every second of those 7 days, but we were there for most of it. On the game, we just went the first day. We thought, okay, we don't want to, wear out our welcome.
Yeah. Was it cool to see like the devices being made, like the props that they do to bring your story to life? How was that?
So the day we were there, they were not using the prop. We were, but Ashley Judd was in the scene. And so we got to see Ashley and Dr. Crusher and Wesley. Yeah.
That's amazing.
So great.
Yeah.
When we got to the end of the episode, I obviously remembered that Picard's Shakespeare recital was coming, and just looking over and watching Deneé as he started, because it's one of the very rare times that you see Picard break like that, and if there's anyone that can do it to him, it's Deanna's mother. Is going to make him break in some sort of way.
Right.
But did you feel that kind of pressure of Picard is so straight-faced and I'm doing something kind of silly with him? Is everyone going to be okay with this? Or were you just, let's do it?
Well, you never know if you're going to be rewritten. And almost everything in TV gets rewritten. However, Menage a Troy was not rewritten very much. A little bit, yes.
Oh, yeah. Amazing. Yeah.
But if you look at our very first draft and look at it on the air, a surprising amount of our dialogue made it into the final draft, which is really shocking, I have to tell you.
That's amazing.
But the Shakespeare stuff, we just took a chance. Knowing that Patrick was a Royal Shakespearean, actor.
It's a smart move. He'll eat that up.
We thought maybe he'd get a kick out of this. So we just
went. He did too.
And
you can see it.
Yeah. No, it was a moment. But to answer your question about Lwaxana, yes, writing that dialogue was a lot of fun. It was. And we absolutely meant it to be a comedy. I think two of the highlights of the comedy that ended up in the final draft were when Lwaxana wants to get away from the Ferengi and comes over to Picard to engage him, and he says, I'm just going to show Wright and Grax the new door mechanisms.
Yes, let's pick the most obscure thing that we can.
Exactly. I just thought that. And then, if I say so myself. And then the other thing, which is just under his breath at the end, he says to Wesley, "Warp 9."
Yes.
Like, get us there quickly.
Let's go. Quick. We never use Warp 9. Let's go.
Yeah.
And that's something that's so fun, because that's a subtle detail that a non-super nerd like myself, I wouldn't understand that. But Ian will regularly be like, Deneé, let me explain that to you. That's not usual.
No,
like,
it's
and
like,
so he'll kind
this
of
is a warp 2 or warp 3 situation, and Picard is just like, put the foot down.
Right.
Let's get out
Like,
of here.
get me the hell away from her.
Like, and what's hilarious is that it's Wesley's grandmother. So he's like, I'm sorry, but your grandma is super annoying. We need to get out of here. It's so fun. I always love that countdown where he's doing the line, and then he'll turn around, pull his shirt down, and go 2, and just the countdown to fire, just going from hilarious recital to serious Worf blow them up is so great. It's so much fun.
It was a really fun one.
How it turned out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think the last standout moment that just I know had Deneé hilariously laughing was when they all get beamed up. Sans clothing, and she's just like, I didn't realize transporter beams could do that.
Well, we definitely had a discussion with Gene about this. So before we pitched to Michael, even though Gene wasn't going to take our pitches, we took him to lunch and said, look, these are the stories we're going to bring to Michael. We just want to know if you hate any of them, then we won't bring the ones you hate. Fortunately, he didn't hate any of them. I don't know if he loved them all, but he didn't hate any of them. So as we were talking about what at the time we were going to call, at first it was the Ransom of Mrs. Troy. Then it became Peace of Mind, Piece.
Okay, yeah.
We wanted a piece of her mind. We described the shot, what we wanted to do with beaming them out, and they're going to be naked. The clothes are going to fall. And we said, can we do that? And Gene said, yeah, we can do that. So we got the blessing that we could have nudity in there. I mean, we knew it wasn't going to be frontal, obviously.
No.
At least we knew.
No, we're not on HBO.
Yeah. But
no, it's so great. It's so fun when you can use Star Trek technology to do something funny like
unexpected.
That.
Exactly.
And then all of a sudden it becomes like, okay, so this is actually an ability of this, this system. So we're learning more about what is and isn't.
How much does this get abused?
Right. By the way, the title of the show, Peace of Mind, that changed because Michael Pillar said, we don't want to do a play on words, so come up with another title. Susan and I went to dinner in Burbank and went over many, many titles, most of which were pretty stupid, like My Stepmother is a Ferengi. Doesn't really even make sense, but, the movie.
Yeah.
And we left the restaurant, still didn't have a title. And driving home, the phrase popped into my head, pas de deux. And I thought, 2, it's not really 2, it's going to be 3. More of a menage a trois.
There we go.
Ta-da!
Now,
that's perfect.
But again, it's a play on words. So we thought, so the next morning, Susan went in, and before we did anything, she went to Gene and said, Fred and I have a new title. Michael wanted to change it, didn't want to play on words. Here's our new title. And we really like it. And Gene,
please,
yeah, I like it too. So he wrote a memo. Gene wrote a memo to Michael Pillar.
Oh, amazing! You went to Dad.
Fred and Susan have a new title, and I like it. And that's how we got Menage a Troy.
That's amazing. It's like, I know it's still wordplay, but trust me on this one. It's worth it. This is great. We have a colleague very much like that is a big fan of wordplay and just like, hear me out, guys.
Right.
I know I've done this before, but you're going to love it.
So
it's so great.
The game had another title, but Michael didn't like it. Actually, he said we'd be sued.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Ooh. And before I tell you the title, my answer was no, blank blank will love it. And I'll tell you who blank blank was. Our title was Advance to Boardwalk.
Oh.
And he said Parker Brothers will sue us.
Yeah.
And I said, no, they'll love it. That something from Monopoly is a title of a Star Trek. That he wouldn't even try.
No, it's something to tick off the bucket list. If you're included or referenced in Star Trek, then
you've made
that's it. You've made it. You're in the 24th century.
Exactly.
You've got it.
We'll be talking about it today. Advance to Boardwalk. Yeah,
that's incredible.
Life goals. Get on
amazing.
Star Trek. That's it.
Right.
That's great.
That's it.
Yeah. So
one of we put out some feelers to like the fans of the podcast to see if they had any specific questions, and on the game specifically. One of my favorite questions was, what was it like creating a story for Wesley, especially when there was quite a bit of, let's say, animosity at the time? He wasn't the most beloved character.
Right.
For the record, I've always loved Wesley. he's who I related to on the ship, because I was like, imagine being a kid and just getting plucked up and popped on the bridge of the Enterprise and then getting promoted. And
Right.
so yeah, the question was like, what was it like writing for a character that wasn't super popular?
Not only that, who was gone by the time we wrote. Well, there's a whole long story about this. So let me tell you, there is definitely background about it.
Mm.
And by the way, his promotion, that was in Menage a Troy.
That is beautiful. It is such a great moment, because you would think that would be in a Wesley-centric story, but it's not a Wesley story, but it's such a great and fitting reward for the work that he does. It's
I
a
was
great
just
moment.
gonna say that was another part of that one that I really loved. Speaking of Wesley, because it's a beautiful way to tell an important part of a story and like showcase that you don't have to build something around a big event like that. It can be meaningful inside of other people's stories.
This is part of life on the Enterprise.
Yeah.
The way that came about is Susan and I knew that Gene wanted to promote Wesley, and it was going to happen in some episode. And so we went to him and said, we would love to promote him at the end of Menage a Troy. And Gene said, okay.
That's amazing.
So cool.
How we got to include it in that episode.
And to see his little walk of pride as he comes onto the bridge in the uniform for the first time, you can see Will Wheaton beaming.
It was handled really well. The directing of it and everybody on the bridge.
Yes.
Yeah, we were really happy with how it turned out.
Just tears everywhere.
Yeah.
Beverly on her little weird perch that she has.
Yes. And Gene was on the set because, he was Wesley, and this was,
of course,
a big thing, for him.
That's incredible.
So the game, when we wrote it, the first time when we pitched it, it was a year earlier, and we wrote it as Wesley's going away episode.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, we didn't know if they were going to let us do it as going away.
Of course.
We just took a shot. So when we first pitched it, Michael liked it and gave us the go-ahead to write the story, the first step. Mm-hmm. We wrote the story, turned it in, and the reaction was, you didn't quite get what we want. So do this, and this, and then we'll be happy. Mm-hmm. So we rewrote it, adding in this, and this, and we turned it in, and they said, no, it's still not quite there. So do
guys, you're killing me.
And this, and it'll be all right. So we did, and it was, no, you're just not getting it. We're going to have another writer take a crack at it.
Ouch.
So, and they didn't like it.
Oh, no.
And they gave it to another writer. And they didn't like it.
Wow.
And then it went into the dead file.
Oh, no.
These do. I mean, there are many stories in the dead file.
I want to get my hands on that file. That's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Me too.
So we're going to have to talk after the podcast about our dead file plans.
We break into Paramount.
Yeah.
I haven't thought about it. So much time like a year goes by, and to us, it's just dead. Now, I didn't know this at the time, but we found out later. Rick Berman went to Michael one day and said, whatever happened to that story that Susan and Fred did about the game? And Michael said, it's in the dead file. And Rick said, no, I like that story. We're going to do it.
Oh, wow.
So we got revived a year later.
Like the phoenix rising out of the ashes of the dead file.
Exactly. Good thought. Yes, exactly.
Wow.
Like that. And at this point, it was a year later, and they didn't come back to us. They gave it to a brand new writer, Brandon Braga, and had him work the story using ours, but adding to it, and then he wrote the script. So we get story credit as we should. We came up with the story. Ironically, two things: it became his coming back story instead of his going away story. And
of course, yeah.
As Brandon wrote it, it was more like our first draft than anything that had come after. So we feel, not exactly, but pretty close.
Yeah.
We felt like it came full circle to what we had wanted. So even though we got the story credit and not full teleplay credit, we were very happy.
Oh,
that's
absolutely.
Incredible.
It's a sneaky end of Starfleet story wrapped in quite a fun tale, because if they're successful and they make it back to the starbase, and if Wesley wasn't there, that thing wipes out all of Starfleet. Like,
Exactly.
It's
All of
so
it.
dangerous.
Yes.
All of it.
Yeah.
It's so fun. That's so great. So what, just to pivot completely in a different direction,
Sure.
what do you think Gene would feel about all of the new Star Trek and just the fact that it's continued on for so long as well?
I think he'd say, Fred, what you said at lunch, it's true.
You were right.
I don't think he'd remember that. Well, when Rick and Michael brought him Deep Space Nine, he said, no, I don't want to do that.
Wow.
And 5 days after he died, they announced Deep Space Nine. Now, I love Deep Space Nine, and I have seen Gene change his mind many times. So I do believe, I don't. There's no way to know for certain. I am pretty sure he would have come to really like Deep Space Nine.
Yeah.
I think he would love everything that's going on now, especially Strange New Worlds.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think he would like all of it and be very happy and
Aww.
be financially rewarded. I mean,
I think so. I think so as well.
if you compare Gene's, obviously Gene was not poor, but if you compare his financial status at the time of his death to the way the estate has grown, it is so much larger now than it ever was in his lifetime. So I think he'd be totally, obviously happy, but totally shocked at
Absolutely.
it's 2022 and we're still watching new episodes of Star Trek.
Well, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 different Star Trek TV shows going on at the minute, and all of them in active production. It's incredible.
A total of 11 series with more to come.
Yeah.
I think it's 11 if you don't count short treks, but so 12 if you count.
Oh, I count short
Then
treks,
there's
definitely.
Yeah.
Ian and I talk about this too when we're chatting about like the story creation, and the things that I'm realizing is that there's so much care that's been given into the details of how things work, or the systems that are in place for how Starfleet interacts. And there's all these different the worlds that are created, the different races that are created, the different conflicts that are there. There's so much detail in that when you're writing a story, it brings it to life in a new way because it has so much existing detail. So you don't really have to do a lot of qualification because the people who are writing on it, they're like, no, that's how that whatever scientific-y thing that you just said works, because it's been there for so long and that's what it does. Ian regularly brings up names of things in engineering. I have no idea what they are, but he's like, well, this is how it works. And that's the beautiful part, I think, of the world of Star Trek. I really hope that there were a lot of voices that would have been speaking to him about the care with which these things have been created. And that's, I think, part of why there's such a passion for it, too. There's the incredible fan base, and they're really welcoming as well. I was kind of worried a bit when we started the podcast and about being a new Trek person and just asking questions and maybe like being free to not like it. Like we started with Picard because I knew Picard. He was my captain.
Right.
So we started in that series, and I was like, man, if I don't like this, I mean, am I going to be eaten
This
alive
is a lot of pressure. Ian's not going to be friends with me anymore.
Right.
You know, but it's not that way at all. There's just conversation about it, and I've really enjoyed it's the stories, the detail, the care, and the fan base itself. I think are more of that uplifting fan base rather than the toxic sort of environment that I think we see with some content. And maybe that starts with people, you know, out there picketing to get their beloved show back.
Yeah.
I'll take all the credit for that. No.
You should.
You know, speaking more about what Gene would think today, I think one of the reasons that we do love all of these current series, and the reason he would have loved them, is that it goes back to something I remember him saying in TNG season 2 or 3, because there were many, you know, producers on the show. And I remember someone came in and Gene did not like what he wanted to do to Star Trek. It wasn't Hurley or Michael Piller. I think did a brilliant job.
Michael Piller is legendary.
He, you know, as we all know, season 3 is when TNG really kicked
into gear.
This is another gentleman under Michael. And Gene just didn't like what he wanted to do to Star Trek. And I remember him saying to me, Star Trek isn't broken and I don't need someone to come in and fix it. Well, no one's come in to fix it. They have done Star Trek like it's I was always worried that at some point in the future, when Gene is not doing Star Trek, what will the new people do? We know that it was in the good hands with Rick Berman and Michael Piller, but what about beyond them?
Yeah,
I don't have to worry because under Alex Kurtzman, everyone's done an amazing job and stayed true to. Obviously they've gone in other directions. They've done season-long arcs, and but it's also 2022, and you can't tell like you said, Deneé, you can't tell a story in 2022 like you told it in 1967 or 6.
No.
So you change with the times, but that's all fine, and it's all done within the framework of what Star Trek is and should be.
So good.
Michelle Paradise is such a awesome pair of hands to be like steering the ship as well. She seems to be like really keen on keeping it to what Gene imagined it was going to be, and just it says so much, the people that have that care and respect for what Star Trek is, and just to keep it going. And I think every actor in the world at some point wants to be in Star Trek, and everybody wants to write for it. Absolutely. That's so
yes.
Right. Yeah.
We write our own shows on the podcast regularly. Like, all right, we're doing it.
Come up with some interesting episodes ourselves.
Let me brag on Ian for a second. He does this bit on the podcast where it's called Trek or Triction.
Yeah.
Where he will describe the plot line of an episode, and I have to guess if it's an actual episode or if he's just making it up, because sometimes and it's so crazy. There was one he told me about, I think a snowflake showing up in space, and I was like, that's not true. I was like, no, that actually happened.
That one happened. And it's the more bizarre ones are the ones that are actual episodes. Like mine tend to be, no, that could happen. That's absolutely fine.
In this episode, it shrinks down and they go into the panel to take their shuttle. Then I'm like, nah, that's not true. Yes, that actually happened.
That actually happened.
Right.
I'm terrible at this game. Terrible at it.
Well, keep playing. You'll get better.
Exactly. The more you watch, the only thing you can do is watch every single episode of Star Trek ever.
I think that's the plan. We're going to be doing this podcast for a very long time, and I think that the fans are okay with that.
I tell people who have never seen Star Trek, I say, there's only 800 episodes or so if you start now.
Yeah, you'll be absolutely fine. And that's
You'll be fine.
I always complain about not having enough time to watch new shows. And there I am rewatching TNG for the 15th time because you could just always make time to do that. Just to wrap up, not to take any more of your time. If there was one show that's ongoing right now you'd like to write for, what would it be other than Strange New Worlds? Because I think that's the obvious answer.
Strange New Worlds? Well, it would be Strange New Worlds.
Come on. Strange New Worlds. That's all of our answer.
Yeah. What kind of story would you like to write for them? Where would you send them off to?
Well, the challenge, of course, after 800 episodes is to come up with something new, right? That you haven't seen before. Unless you send Captain Pike to the future and have him redo a story, but they'll never do that.
I mean, we can talk about that if you want. Like, that is one of the most incredible episodes of Star Trek I've ever seen. That was so
What
well
did you
done.
think watching it?
I thought this is brilliant, and it's the best episode yet of this series, and it's in a category with The Inner Light and City on the Edge of Forever.
Yes, absolutely.
Brilliant.
Did you know like super fast that it was a remake? Because I didn't know. I've not seen any of the TOS, so I got to watch it with like a totally different lens.
They just got to watch me freaking out as
he was
I knew
freaking
exactly
out.
what episode we were in.
Because the first clue is the wedding, right? And
yes, of course. Yeah.
Not knowing where they were going to go, my first thought was, they did a wedding once before, without thinking we're in the same wedding. Thinking, but what an homage to.
Yeah, what a nice little nod.
Yeah. And then
might be more than a nod.
It didn't take very long for me to go, oh my God, we're in Balance of Terror. How brilliant.
It's just incredible.
Yeah.
So well done.
It was.
Yeah, such a clever way to end the season.
I'm sure we both did the same thing. After I watched it, then I had to watch Balance of Terror again.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
And it's some of it is shot for shot. They just remade the same shot, and it's just the attention to detail is just awe-inspiring.
Going in on Spock's ear and all of that.
Yeah, the dramatic lighting across the eyes that you don't get to see anymore.
And the dialogue, of course, so much dialogue that came right out.
Yes. Yeah, in another reality, we could have been friends. Just, it's such a brave way to end the series as well, because there could have been the temptation to, no, we must be independent, we must do our own thing. But
to weave in the Pike storyline, to weave in that he needed to have that moment to decide his fate. To have the bravery to go, we're going to actually help him make his decision to be in this timeline despite the outcome. Yeah. And we're going to loop it into an existing, it's so brave to do that. There's actually someone on YouTube that took footage from the original and this, and they've already like kind of made a little mashup video. Right. And I was just sent it earlier today, and I'll watch that later on.
Yeah, I'll have to go look at that. Well, so yeah, I definitely have a lot of stories I pitched that could be strange new world stories. When I was in college, I had a script writing class, and this was during the original run, first run of the original series. And I came up with an idea that I think I could still do today. Now, a little piece of it was done on the Orville.
Oh, interesting.
Okay.
So the name of the episode is Monument. And they beam down to a planet and find a statue of themselves.
Oh, wow.
That's the monument. And being celebrated as heroes, and they don't know why.
Oh, that's amazing. That's a great little cold open. We
go from there. And you just reminded me of something else I should tell you. So yes, the monument, the Orville episode where we find the giant statue of her on the planet where, time is going forward so fast. I thought, oh my God, the monument.
You stole it from me. No.
How did they get into that file? How did they get into the file?
I wear aluminum on my head to keep my thoughts.
Seth MacFarlane is burrowing into your mind and stealing your good ideas.
Yes. But you pitch and you pitch and you pitch, and it's inevitable that sometimes they may. Now, nobody knew about Monument, so I'm not saying that they took it from me. That reminds me of course, the episode of TNG Rascals where they got younger. I heard later that Gene was having Michael Piller was having a conversation with Eric Stillwell, who was in the script department, of course, who wrote the story for yesterday's Enterprise. And Eric said, Michael, there was an animated episode where they became too young to run the ship. And Michael said, oh, well, who wrote that one? And Eric said, oh, Fred wrote it. And Michael said, oh, good, because he'll never sue us.
That's an actual thought that you have to have, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, he was joking, I'm sure.
Of course, yeah.
And he was right. Of course I would never sue them. I want to keep writing for them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When you have a franchise that at that point, Star Trek is only 20, 25 years old, and it's already started to accidentally recycle itself. But
it was clear he was not aware of that episode. So it wasn't like he stole it. And there are things.
It's so funny.
We've seen many things that repeat as part of thoughts or ideas that repeat. It's not plagiarism,
It kind of reminds me of what we were talking about earlier with sometimes we're just those conduits. Like the thought is out there, and if it wants to live, it finds its way to come out. Like even when it has to rise out of the ashes of the delete file, if a story needs to be told, it'll ping into our minds enough. And if enough people are aware of it, it's going to come out somehow, somewhere.
Yes.
And I love that idea that those who are aware and activated and motivated will be maybe the first ones to get out maybe the first draft, but you don't know if you're just part of the seed planting or if you're going to be on the harvest end of it. Like you just don't know.
Many times I've had thoughts or ideas or story ideas, and it's not like I tell anybody, but then they end up. So one example is I wanted to do a parody of Wonder Woman, and I thought Melissa McCarthy would be the perfect actor to play the role, and I called her Thunder Woman. And then
they go and make the film Thunder Force.
Yeah, but I never told anyone. It was not.
Oh no!
That's what I'm talking about. There's something there's a real genuine aliveness that's just on the other side of this ether.
Yeah,
it's just there. Yeah,
it's true.
It's true.
I did something similar back in. I had a screenwriting course back at university as well. And it was like a 6-part drama, and it was about this group of time-traveling people that had to go back in time, and I titled it Continuum. And then little did I know, a few years later, a TV show called Continuum comes out with like almost word for word the same plot as what I wrote. And I was like, did somebody steal my laptop? And like, could you at least give me some credit for this? Because it's just spooky how that kind of stuff ends up out in the universe.
Yeah.
I have a Post-it note of drawing a smart pen before they came out because I'm older than people think. So before there was like a phone with like a smart pen that you could go inside of it, I still have my doodle. I'm like, I drew that before it was invented, by golly.
Well, I'm going to tell you something I rarely ever speak about. But around 1984, I thought, they should really bring Star Trek back as a TV series. And I wrote a draft for something called Star Trek: The Next Generation. I never showed it to anyone. I never took it to Gene.
Wow.
But that's what I called it. It's not like it's brilliant. I mean, it was not the first thing to be called. They actually did Bonanza: The Next Generation. And I just thought, that would be a cool title for this.
That's incredible.
I'd have to find it. I never throw out things I write, but I have no idea where that is at the moment.
Find it. I believe it. I absolutely believe it.
No.
I believe it. We're all tapped into something.
We are.
That's amazing. That's incredible.
Well, I feel inspired.
Maybe we made them happen. I don't know. I don't know how it works.
Okay.
What
are we going to do with our powers? Because clearly we're,
we're gonna
not all human.
Good.
That's right, Fred. That's exactly right.
I don't know. I'm leaning towards evil. I think there's enough good in the world. We need to create something evil.
Oh, do we have like...
And having powers for good unless there are powers for evil, because there's no story.
There's got to be a balance. Exactly.
So between the three of us, we have a triad here. Yeah. There's the good, the evil, the neutral. This is going somewhere.
That's
I'm
amazing.
excited.
Let's work on it.
All right, stay tuned, podcast listeners.
I keep saying we're wrapping up, but it's so awesome to talk to you, Fred.
Mm-hmm.
What did you see the end of Robert April being? Like, what did you see kind of his career progression and then retirement as being the man that kind of brought him to life?
Well, first of all, I have a huge regret, and I guess I should get over it, but that is that I made him 75 and retiring.
Mm-hmm.
When I wrote this in 1974, that seemed very logical because retirement age was 65. And so to make it 75, wow. Well, now people in their 70s, like me, are still working.
You actually undercooked it.
And 75, I probably should have made it 125. Look at McCoy in the first Encounter at Farpoint.
Yeah, he's still there.
I feel like I should have made his retirement age much older and given him
older.
Yeah, a longer life. Other than that, I don't know that I thought much about it, to be honest. When you write this, at the time, I thought, well, that's it for Robert April. He was in one episode, and at the time, I thought, we'll never see him again. It did occur to me later on that we might. But back then, I wasn't. It's like a songwriter who wrote a song in 1960. They wrote it, to be on the radio for a couple of months and never thought we'd still be hearing it 60 years later. So it's like that. I don't think I thought it enough about that.
Do you want to go back in and like add detail? Like maybe he retired early for a reason, but now he's out of retirement, and what got him out of retirement so that he could continue to work?
I think Deneé's got some ideas.
I'm doing an episode where Captain April goes to the future and has to be in a story that already exists. Oh no, I guess I'm not.
Yes, no. I will take those stories. If every single season ends with a revisit to a classic episode, I'm here for it. That'll be incredible.
Okay.
No, you've been extremely generous with your time. Like you're part of like Star Trek legacy. What an awesome thing to be a part of. Is absolutely incredible. So thank you so much for spending some time with us.
Great to be with both of you. Thanks, Deneé. I'm anytime, happy to do it. And you asked great questions, so it was easy to reply.
I will absolutely have you back on the show. I think one of the other things we do is we do a bit of a watch along and then an analysis and gentle picking apart of episodes. So I think next time you come on, we'll pick your favorite episode and pull it apart.
Ooh, that'd be fun.
Right.
Oh, we do it in person.
Yeah.
After the event in Sweden. We all meet in the UK
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and we have a little live sit down.
Okay.
And then we write a short story, Star Trek, just for fun.
Yep.
All right.
Perfect.
And then the next night we'll go to the ABBA show.
Okay.
Perfect. And then 10 years later, we'll see the episode on TV, but it wasn't us that wrote it. Someone else will have
That's
just come up with it independently.
And we'll
Amazing.
say Warp 9. We know what this means.
Yep.
Warp 9.
Get us out of here, Mr. Crusher.
Yeah.
Warp 9.
That's great. Thank you. Amazing. No, absolute pleasure, Fred. Thank you so
It was
much.
so nice to meet you.
Ian, thank you. Deneé, thanks a lot.
Did you just beam Fred out of the ship?
Oh,
Did
no.
you?
I
Bye, Fred.
I was trying to bye, Fred.
Wow.
I was trying to
Wow.
be cool. I was leaning on the.
That's not cool.
I was doing the Riker lean, and I accidentally stepped on a button. He'll be
Well,
fine. He seemed to
you
enjoy
know,
it. I think he'll
he'll
be
come back.
fine. He'll be back.
He'll come back. I hope.
No.
Or you beamed him to space, and the poor man is just trying to figure out how to swim to a shuttlecraft in the distance.
I don't know that you swim. If anybody can do it, Fred
It's
Bronson
Fred.
can write himself out of
He
being
can write himself
beamed
out
into space.
exactly. That is my point.
Amazing. Well, that was loads of fun.
Like, is that the closest that you've ever come to like Star Trek royalty?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you kidding?
All right,
I mean,
all right.
I have touched Jonathan Frakes.
Careful.
No,
Careful.
I have touched Jonathan Frakes and
On the shoulder.
on the hand. On the hand.
Okay,
He knew
all
about it as well. He offered his hand to me and
Okay.
I shook
okay.
it. But in
Did
terms
you kiss
of
it?
not
Like he offered his hand and you smooched it?
not to his knowledge. Hey, look over there. Smooch.
This went from you like being like he gave me consent and then immediately like but not for this
But
part.
not for this part. Yeah. No, that sums it up. Yeah, no, Fred's awesome. Like to be in touch
that was
with
a lot of fun.
that deeper part of Star Trek history, all the way from the animated series up to TNG and even J.J. Abrams. That man has some amazing stories that I think we only just scratched the surface of.
Did we just peak though? Like, is that the best that Captain's Pod will ever be? Like, should we just end the show now here forevermore? I mean,
It's the best until Fred comes back and we nitpick
that's
an
true.
episode with him.
Do you think he'll really do it with us?
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
hope he will.
Yeah,
I think he
so.
will too.
Yeah, I think he will.
Okay.
Amazing. Well, that was so much fun. Thanks for listening, guys. If you enjoyed it, spread it out. Tell everyone about it.
Yes.
Tell everyone
Please
about the
go
secrets.
on to Twitter if you're on Twitter. Fred said he was going to tweet this episode, so go show him love for listening to it on that thread if you can find it, and of course we will retweet it. And so check our Twitter feed. Also, just if you are loving the show, could you please give us a public review on Apple Music? That's a really kind of important central source for people to find how the general public is responding to a podcast. I wish there was a different way to do it, but that's where to do it. So if you have an account with Apple, would you please go do that for us? That would really, really help us out. And thanks again for listening. To all of our new listeners, thanks for being here.
And yeah, give Fred a follow. He's at Fred Bronson on Twitter. And also, Fred has a website, fredbronson.com, which is a super high recommend from me. It is a treasure trove of playlists that he's put together, information about his career in the music industry, and as a journalist, and some absolutely awesome photos from his very storied career. So thanks for listening, everybody. As always, live long and prosper.
Thanks for listening. Want to connect with the show? Our hailing frequencies are always open through captainspod@cinemasins.com. Like, comment, and subscribe on your podcast player of choice, and be sure to visit cinemasins.com.
The first thing I'm going to do is show him the ship that you made.
Okay. No, that's good. That's fine. That's
the
fine.
first thing I'm going to do. I want you to see our cool Borg cube, which is pyrite, right?
Yes, it is pyrite. Yeah.
And then I want you to see this beautiful ship,
Man.
that Ian thinks that he is going to come back to the United States, paint, and take home with him, but is mine forever. The only way that I'm ever giving this to anyone is if your dad asks for it. And I'm like, okay, I can't say no to your dad. I want to show you one thing real fast.
Yeah.
This is something that Ian made. No, don't mind my nail polish. My daughter did my nails. She's only 5, but this was actually crafted out of clay by a 30-year-old man.
Really?
It was an unusual medium. I'm not used to dealing with clay.
Yeah.
It started off as an enterprise.
Isn't that hilarious?
No, it's great. If I did it, it wouldn't look nearly as good as that one.
This is the start of a story. The start of the story is all of a sudden they have to they travel to a planet that when you create something out of clay, it comes to life. Mm-hmm. And this wonky ship is what gets them back home somehow.
Well, strangely, Voyager did that. They when they go to the demon planet. No, they go to the demon planet, and then there's a second Voyager that's made, but it isn't stable.
Right.
Star Trek's done it.
Yeah, sorry. But so there was a song that I think could be the title of the episode.
Okay.
The song was by Jimmy Rogers, and it was called Child of Clay.
Yeah.
See?
Perfect.
So
we can do this.
There you go.
We can.
And Deneé takes great joy in showing it to everybody whenever she can.
It's amazing. There's no way.
No, I'm never.
It's amazing.
I was going to paint it, but now I feel like the worse it is, the better. I just need to leave it as...
No. Yeah, you couldn't top that.
No.
I love it. Call Hasbro. They may want to make a whole new toy line.
I'll start reaching out. Yeah. Slightly wonky enterprises.
Yeah, I think you could make a fortune.
It's a whole series,
Amazing.
Slightly wonky, and then insert the next thing here.
I can finally stop podcasting for a living and follow my dream.
There you are.
Amazing. That's incredible.
Do you wish I was a robot?
No.
And you could just program my chaos a little bit more? Why are you? What is that face?
Nothing.
What are you? Are you planning something right now? What the fuck?
Is chaos if you can program it?
Oh, that's why you had that face.
Mm-hmm. No, the face was because you asked me if I wanted a programmable robot, and yes, of course I do. But it would only be used for the betterment of mankind. Nothing like what you're thinking.
Can it go upstairs?
It's not Dalek. It doesn't. It's just we will dominate the universe unless there are steps.
Why is my audio so quiet?
Your audio is always either very quiet or excessively present.
It's that's like my personality.
Yes.
Huh. Yeah. Wow.
I decided long ago.
Why are you and Aaron both singing that song?
Wait, today?
Yes.
Oh, because it's in the Obi-Wan edit. That's why.
Literally, he just before this, he's over here at the house working today.
Yeah.
I walked into the room and he's like, "Never to walk in anyone's shadow." I was like, okay. And then you start doing it.
Yeah. If I fail,
if I succeed, let's come up with our own cool pseudonym. So it's the city he was born in is Culver.
Yeah.
Okay, so what would your last name be?
Luton. Which there actually is a character in Star Trek called Lutan.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay. We should probably be doing this with him. But what's just a regular name you like that's just kind of like a normal name?
Henry.
So you're Henry Luton?
Henry Lutan.
Luton?
What would yours be? Yours would be, what, Springfield?
Yeah, so the last name would be Springfield.
Please tell me you like the name Marge. Marge Springfield.
What if it was Rich?
Rich Springfield? Was it Bruce? Bruce Springfield?
Yeah, let's make it Bruce.
Yeah.
Or, no, wait, Brenda.
But picking a male name would be the thing, because you would be well, I'll be more accepted by the writing people if I'm a man.
That's probably true.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what kind of a male name would I pick? Oh, it's easy. Denny, because it's just everyone calls me Denny anyway.
Perfect.
So it would just be Denny Springfield.
Denny Springfield. That's so good.
Yeah. That's it.
Yep. I'm your captain, Fred Luton, and here is Ambassador Denny Springfield.
And then we do a voice changer where my voice is just awkwardly low.
Oh, amazing. That'd be so good.
So people don't know that I'm actually a woman unless they watch the live show.
That's true. I'll put on a southern accent. Oh, I'm Fred Luton.
That's pretty good.
That's all I'm going to say.
Is that all you can do?
Yeah.
It's just, I'm Fred.
Welcome aboard the USS Enterprise.
That's not bad. That's not bad. If I was to do a new voice on Wild RP, it'd be like a super hillbilly. Howdy, y'all having a good time? All right.
No, you just went straight into Matthew McConaughey. All right.
Oh,
Yeah.
you know, he can't have that phrase. That's
No, but
just
he
it's just a
can.
phrase.
No, he can.
He pops in the chat, and we're both screaming.
Welcome to Captain's Pod.
He's like, oh my God.
Just doing some vocal warm-ups.
Exactly.
The Ferengi flailed ferociously. We should do like some Star Trek themed audio.
Some tongue twisters?
Warm-ups, yeah.
Oh my God.
The Andorian was androgynous with their antlers.
So, can I tell you something funny?
Yes.
I was in a meeting yesterday.
Mm.
And it's with a couple of people that I regularly get their names mixed up. Both of their names are not necessarily similar.
I know the people.
But
yes.
Yeah. So I was like, you know what I'm going to do at the top of the meeting? I'm going to just write down their name and then something that describes them so that I can just, like get used to it.
Oh no.
So I wrote down like the first person's name. Let's say it was Brent, and the next one's name is Brian, right? So I wrote down Brent, wearing hat, has a beard, young, things like that. And then Brian shows up, and he's also wearing a hat, has a beard, and is also young. I'm like, how am I gonna? Neither of them have glasses or any discernible like visual difference between each other, other than one is named Brent and one is named Brian.
There's no
I'm like,
possible other way to differentiate them.
I'm just gonna have to learn their fucking names like a regular person would do.
I thought you were going to say that one of them had a hat and a beard, and then like the other one didn't. But then the meeting went on for so long that one of them took their caps off, and then the other one put a cap on, and it just completely threw you, and it broke your system.
And also grew a beard,
and also
just magically.
Because of how long the meeting went on. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
So
that's actually a good skit, though.
Yeah,
that's a good skit.
That would work. You've interviewed people before, haven't you?
Are you kidding?
What do you mean, are you kidding?
You're funny.
Why?
I think you're joking right now.
No, I know you have. That's why I'm asking. Like, you've interviewed loads of people.
So like usually the purpose of a question is that you are asking for clarification. So when you said, have you interviewed someone? You said, of course you have. I know that already, but have you interviewed someone? So I'm, do you know I have?
No, I do know. I had another sentence that, I mean, if you'd have been a normal human, you'd have said, yeah, of course. And then I could have done my next bit. But you like started to break down my statement. Yeah.
Oh, no. I ruined your bit.
Let's go again. You've interviewed people, haven't you, Deneé?
No. Working with me is so much fun. I'm going to send you a picture of my notes from this meeting. It has their real names, though, so you can't like actually say it.
Amazing. It says hat, Brent, beard. Backwards hat, Brian, also beard. Fuck.
Did you account for Deneé's questions in here?
No. Those are just going to be sprinklings of excellence.
I hope so. Especially when like you ask your first question. I'm like, that's a boring question. Let's talk about something else.
That's dumb. I'm taking over.
Did you stalk him?
I did some research, yeah.
Oh, research. Yeah. I see. Yeah. That's the professional way of saying
Parked outside of his house for 2 weeks. How do you do your research?
Is that what you did with me whenever you invited me on your podcast?
Oh, no. That was like 2 months. Much longer.
Research,
yes. That's how I knew to trick you into talking about D&D.
That's how you got the schematics to my house. Oh, it's all making sense now.
Computer, divert resources away from wherever the ambassador is. Lock her out.
Are you locking me out, Captain?
You're locked out of the computer now. Authorization code, Picard, 1177457776551442327771.
Computer?
If you get that reference, well done.
Am I helping?
Nope.
Da, 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 ba, 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 ba.